Welcome to Conversations with Body and Mind with myself, Nirvana. Body and Mind is your health and wellness online directory. And coming up in today's conversation, I'll be chatting with MG. And she's a life coach and psychic counselor. And I'm really looking forward to chatting to you. Good morning, MG. How are you? And welcome.
I'm very well, thank you. And it's lovely meeting you. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, MG.
You know, when we had a bit of a problem earlier with the Wi-Fi, and even though our meeting was scheduled for 11 o'clock, I said to my daughter Neha, who's my admin around here, and I said to her, oh, we're only going to get off at 11:11. And
Look at
she,
this.
as you said, hello, we're recording. She showed me the clock and it was exactly 11:11.
And, as we started, it's 11:11. I've decided I'm going to keep that into the interview because that was quite profound. I read a little bit about you. You're one of the members on the Body and Mind Health and Wellness Directory. And I read a little bit about your sort of backstory, some gift and that started with your mother. Tell us a little bit how you discovered your gift and how this developed for you as you were getting older.
All right. So my mom comes from gypsy background. Initially, she's an Indian national, and then came over to South Africa when she married my dad. But her sisters and their family, they all have this background where, in fact, my mom's eldest sister's son is a lecturer at Mumbai University in psychic theory and theology and palmistry and reading of the forehead, and he's printed literature and all of that sort of thing. And just to jump ahead a bit, actually, because my mom being a national, we would always go for holidays. During school holidays, we would go and spend lots of time in India. And the one day I had just started university and I was studying law. And he walked into the room and he looked at me and he said, oh, you're going to do healing. And I said to him, no, I think you're making a mistake because my brother's the one who's doing medicine. I'm the one who's doing law. And he says, oh, we'll see. And he left it at that. And lo and behold, 40 years later, this is what I'm doing. And of course, I started doing this many years ago, something like almost 30 years ago, 26 years to be precise, that I started doing it professionally. But even when I was practicing law, I would also always end up counseling my clients because if every legal problem at the base of it, there's some emotional stress, anxiety, that some kind of, and I would always tell or counsel my clients at the time that they just needed to lean into their bodies and they needed to let go and release the fear and anxiety that they had, and they would ultimately be able to resolve their own issues if they just listened to what their hearts were telling them and what their bodies were really telling them. Because the fear and the anxiety just blocks us. It terrorizes basically us into immobility and we can't function properly.
Exactly.
So
And
that's when I knew that when I finally did make the decision to transition into psychic work and counseling as a full-time profession, that it was the right thing because it had always resonated really well with me. And I must say, it transitioned me. As much as I was helping and counseling others, I benefited probably more than anybody else. And I think when you yourself are experiencing the transition and letting go of the fears and anxieties, we all have them. We all have them. That you can be empathetic and you can work so much better because you're working from a position not of I read it in a book and I'm telling you what to do, but I can actually share some of my experiences with you and I can sort of travel this journey with you because I've been where you've been.
exactly.
And it was the best decision of my life. I mean, people sometimes ask me, wouldn't you go back? Why would you give up law? And I said, there was a time and a place for everything also. We're not meant to do the same thing our whole lives.
No.
And sure, law was necessary because if I hadn't started counseling my clients, I wouldn't have realized that this is really what I wanted to do. But even as a child, my mom sort of gave me a heads up because she always said I had a black spot on my tongue. It was it's an English translation of an old Indian expression, which sort of means is where you can see things, or if I said something, like, for example, this morning, as I said, it started at 11:11. And lo and behold, exactly at 11:11, simple things like that, you know. And she
Exactly.
would always say to me, mm.
Wow.
So I think she got a bit freaked out when my cousin said, "Oh, you're going to do healing," and she said to him, "Shh, don't talk about it. Don't say anything," because it's also a bit of a responsibility.
Oh.
Because sometimes people rely quite heavily on what you guide them and
Mm.
help them, and they don't also understand that they have to put their own work into it.
Exactly.
You know,
Self
so
work.
people,
Mm.
I think what's very important for us psychics and counselors and therapists to understand is that we have to be responsible when we work. We
Exactly.
have to understand the consequences and the ramifications of what we say to people and how we guide them, because it does have an impact on the outcome and how they work with the information you give them. You
So
know, so power does give responsibility, they say.
absolutely. So MG, now psychic readings or your tarot readings as a counselor, um, uh, I mean, most of the people that obviously is our audience or are our audience, I don't always get the two confused, already have some idea of what psychic readings and tarot readings are about. But let's talk to the layman, the people who thinks that it's all hoo-hoo and the devil's work and all the stuff that, you know, labels that people like to use. What is tarot readings, psychic readings? Tell us what's
Okay.
behind it.
Everything is energy.
Right.
Everything is energy, and we all vibrate at a particular frequency. And what the tarot does is, I'm just a reader.
Mm,
I say to people, when you sit down, it's like you handing me a letter
mhm.
and you say, "MG, you know, I found this in my post box and it was addressed to me. My name's on it. I know it's for me, but I just don't understand it. Would you read it for me, please? Because it's a language you can understand." And that's really what I do. I'm merely guiding you and reading the messages that have already come through for you. So you don't have to fast or pray or pay somebody to pray for you. Just embrace. And again, I love using the expression of leaning into your body, because you really have to listen to your own vibrations, because the answers are all hidden within us. But
Exactly.
sometimes there's so much chattering going on up here that we really don't hear them. We don't hear what it's trying to say to us. And if we have time later in the interview, I'd love to end with a little story about the Buddha and
Mm.
how it helps us to calm our minds and to actually listen to what it's trying to say to us.
Isn't it like MG, isn't it like tuning the radio, you know, onto the right frequency? Because
Frequency.
we are so out of tune, we are in the static that we just need to adjust a little bit, and to get onto the frequency, and then we will really pick up, you know, all the information, as you said, that is
Absolutely.
available.
So it's what you were just saying. So when I spread out the cards, I often have somebody say to me, "Oh, but it's random. I'm just picking these cards. How can this be an answer to my
Ever
questions?"
random.
And then I say, what really is the situation here? We are made up of our physical selves,
Mm,
our mental selves, our emotional selves, and our spiritual selves. And we all vibrate at a different frequency, very much like the example you used. You
mm,
can have your cell phone going, you can have your radio going, your TV, your regular landline. They could all be on at the same time. They're all modes of communication, but they're all vibrating at different frequencies. So this
100%.
is what it is. So
Mm,
when you come in and you bring this letter, so to speak, to me
mm,
to interpret for you,
mm.
your spiritual self, which already knows the answers, guides your physical self to choose the energies so that I can interpret it. So
That's
nothing is random. You will
beautifully said.
only
Yeah.
hear what
Mm.
you are meant to hear. And sometimes, the non-believers or the ones who are saying, "Okay, let's give this another
Critics.
try." And
Yeah.
lo and behold, I said, "Fine, let's start again. We'll shuffle, we'll spread the cards, and they may pick up slightly different cards, but
Mm.
the essence of the message will remain the same."
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So, before we do a little play, why don't you tell me the story of the Buddha?
Right. So there was Buddha with his few disciples walking along a river, going from village to village, doing what he was doing, preaching and whatever. And they got to a lovely little clump where there were some trees, and there was a beautiful river flowing by. And he said, okay, this is a good spot for us to rest a bit and stop. And he said to one of his disciples, I see this beautiful sparkling river. Why don't you go and get some water for us to drink? And the disciple goes off, but comes back later with empty vases. And he said, Buddha says, what's happened? Where's the water? And he said, Master, as I was about to scoop up this crystal clear water, some bullocks ran into the river and kicked up all the mud. And the water became all murky. And I was unable to get any water. And Buddha says, all right, just rest a while. That mud will soon settle and that river will run clean again. And then you can get us the water. And we are in no hurry. And this is the point. Your brain is this magnificent river, clear running water. But when we get anxious and we get all worked up and we create these fears and anxieties that aren't really real, so often our fears and anxieties are just that. We base them on something that we project is going to happen into the future, or we think is going to happen, which might never.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we're kicking up the mud.
Yeah.
And we cannot actually, even when the water is all murky and muddy, when you look at a muddy, murky river, you can't imagine that there's actually a magnificent, clear river running through this, if only the mud were to settle. And that's exactly what we do to ourselves, constantly kicking up the mud.
Yeah.
And so the purpose of these readings is to teach us to be patient, be calm, get into the Zen zone, and allow the mud to settle so that we can scoop up the fresh water.
And actually hear what the universe wants to tell us.
He's actually saying to us.
Okay,
yes.
so I was running through a few things in my head while you were talking, and thinking, what spread should we use? And then, it could be anything. Just see what the spread reveals.
And control is a trigger word for the mud to get kicked up.
Exactly.
Because we cannot control. The other thing is, you get into the river, you've put your clothes on the other side of the bank, and you think, okay, I'm just going to swim across the river to get to my clothing. And then you end up somewhere else, and you think, oh, I'm 20 meters away, because this current that was running in the river that you could not perceive pushed you in the direction where you're meant to go. That is life. You can have your projections, you can have your goals, but you will only end up where you're meant to end up. And you have no control over that. Once you accept that as life and not fight back, because the more you persist, the more it's going to resist you.
Exactly.
Then everything runs so smoothly.
Exactly. Well, let's do a quick spread before we get into your contact details, because playing is so important, and having a,
Absolutely.
All right.
It's
let's see what
childlike.
Yes, let's see what.
Okay, so I've spread them out in front of me, and I want you to count for me from 1 to 3, please. And as you count, I'm going to, wherever my finger is, I'm going to stop, and we're going to flip it over, and we're going to see what you come up with.
Right. Okay.
And I would also like if you just focused on something you actually wanted to know about. Okay, as you count, nice and slowly.
1, 2.
Okay, let's see.
3.
Okay, the very first energy, I'm still on 1. The very first energy is, in fact, Pentacles, which is the element of earth. And I see you gobsmacked. Element of earth. And it's all about new business. It's about ventures. It's about opportunities. And it's about recognition as well for the effort you have been putting in. So if you've been trying any new projects, trying to study, learn, embrace things, as we go into November, December, flipping over into January, these opportunities are going to start coming to light. But you're going to have many different ones, and you're going to think, I'm all confused. What if I make a mistake and choose the wrong one? The universe is saying to you, they're actually all good. You cannot make a mistake. So just go, once again, just calm down and just choose the one that feels right, that resonates with you in your gut and your instinct. We do things. You think about, what does your head say to you? I've got to make a decision. What does my head say? Let's say yes. Let's say it's a yes or no question. What does my heart say? And then what does my gut say? And then you take the answer comes from there. Right. Let's go to number 2.
1, 2, 3.
Oh my word. Very good. So the Emperor is a major arcana and says, just stand your ground, be true to yourself. It's very important for you to go forward demanding respect. Respect is very, very important. You have to have an invisible space and boundaries around you. And it's about giving from the saucer and not the cup. You know, we give and we give and we give. And we say, if we keep giving from the cup, we will get depleted, and then you're no good to anybody, not those you need to help and not yourself. But if you always remember to give from the saucer, everybody will get, and the cup will stay full. So the message to you, Nirvana, is stop giving from the cup and remember to only give from the saucer going further forward.
Wow.
And then, of course, this says, don't worry about competition. You're the one in yellow. You're able to ward off the competition. So don't second guess your own ability, because you are your own best advertisement as well. If you don't have faith in yourself, how do you expect anybody else to have faith in you?
100%. Well, that was beautiful. Thank you. Wonderful.
You're very welcome.
Because, you know, it was so lovely to have a play. Why don't you quickly give your contact details, where people can get hold of you? Are you online available, or is it a physical? Just give us how people, you know, can.
Yes, I am online. You can WhatsApp me or call on my mobile number, which is 082 377 1030. So it's 082 377 1030. And my email address is mg@mglifecoach.co.za. And I also have a website, which is www.mglifecoach.co.za, which gives a description of all the different things that I do and my contact details as well.
Yes, and of course, you can go to the Body and Mind website, which is bodyandmind.co.za, or our blog site where you can interact with our members. That is bodyandmindblog.co.za. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this to people that you think can gain benefit from this, and also our social media. And thank you so much, MG, for a lovely conversation and a lovely chat. I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. So did I. And it was lovely chatting to you too. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, MG.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.